let's move on. Final topic here is what coaches are on the hot seat for 2016 and 2017. Obviously, the names flying out there are Alvin Gentry. You have a multitude of names out there. Ricky, when you hear that question, what's the one name that pops into your head?
Well, it's not a name. It's just the funny thing I think of Sean, like, we all go, well, it's early in the season. By the way, what coaches could be getting fired this season?
That has a better chance of happening early in the season, though. Think about in years past, like, just how early did Houston shake hand their coach?
Dave Blatt, too.
David Blatt. Your team's fantastic. Don't worry about it. You're gone. Shit.
Well, and to me, it's one of those things where I look at, the first thing I do is I look at the bottom of the barrel. I look at team, and it's like, okay, which coach could go? But, like, the ones that I want to say, like, the shock value of, Rick Carlisle because the Mavericks are doing bad. But it's like,
Rick Carlisle
really,
is a genius.
Is he the reason why they're doing bad?
No, they're playing 4 D-leaguers.
I'm going to say
starters.
I'm going to say it right now. I can look at almost every NBA team that's in the bottom. Like, I can look at the Suns. I could look at the Pelicans. I could look at the Sixers, the Nets, the Heat. I can give you a reason for why it, like, I could see why their coach gets fired, but I could also give you a reason for, okay, I can see why they wouldn't fire their coach. That's what I'm trying to say.
Really, what do teams try to accomplish by firing a coach? It's a change in mentality. It's saying, hey, we admit this fit isn't right, and we need to make it better going forward. So when I look at that, I look at underperforming teams. It's not teams that we expect to have had. Like, we know the 76ers aren't going to win 55 games this year. That's all right.
That's bold.
That's all right, though. I mean, Joel Embiid can only do so much in limited minutes. When that restriction comes off, we'll talk.
You can only trust in the process so much.
Exactly.
Dave.
So I look at teams that are underperforming uncategorically. That leads to me to your boy, Sean, Scotty Brooks. He is dealing...
Did you expect them to do anything great
I expect them to be competing for an 8 seed.
Okay.
I don't think they are. I don't think they are by any means. They will not be close to that. And they have one of the most talented point guards in the league. Unfortunately, they also have Bradley Beal, who, when on it, he's on it. But when he's not, which is more often than not, he is one of the worst contracts in the NBA. And they need a big... they don't need a big. It's the fact that they need a big change, and that's I'm talking. If you find a buyer for Bradley Beal, or if you find a buyer for John Wall, I think the Washington Wizards, as a franchise, need to admit, hey, this pair isn't going to work. We're not going to get anywhere, and they're both frustrated, and it's only going to get worse over time. This is not one of those situations where you go, let them play. Maybe they'll get better. No, they've had their time. It's not going to work. Move along.
And one thing, too, and I'm going to pat myself on the back again because, weirdly enough, I think I said Scotty Brooks is a terrible head coach, and this is a terrible hire because you have two guys in pretty much KD and Westbrook
Groundhog Day much?
who think they are that level.
Yeah.
John Wall's a fantastic player. I'm not taking it away from him, but
No, KD and Russ are on a different level than Bradley Beal and John Wall.
No, without a doubt, that's what I'm thinking. But they think they're on that same level, and they're idiotic for thinking that. And then them believing that is letting the front office believe that as well, and buy into a false narrative, which just says, "Oh, hey, let's bring in Scotty Brooks, who worked with guys who are on that level, who
he
are
got
on
into
that
a deep
talent."
playoff run. They almost got a championship a couple years. Yeah.
Weirdly enough, that wasn't because of Scotty Brooks.
What?
Yeah, it wasn't because of Scotty Brooks. It was because of some guy named Russell Westbrook, who's averaging a triple-double right now, and Kevin Durant, who's one of the greatest scorers
and James
that we've seen. And then obviously
James
Harden. I wasn't gonna play. Gotta let me finish.
But
anyways,
playoffs.
I think that Scotty Brooks won't be fired just because he is so new to this team. I don't think it's going to be a one and done situation with Scotty Brooks. I think that they're going to have to deal with their mistake of hiring him for at least a little bit. Ricky, what's the one man that goes to come to
I've got two floating through my head, and I'm going to preface this by saying, when I throw these two names out there, I'm not saying they are going to get fired.
Yep.
This is just me thinking in my head, gears are turning from what Dave said. Why does a team fire a head coach? Because they want to change the culture. They want to change something. They don't like how the team is going right now. First team I thought of when you said that, the Portland Trailblazers. This is a team that right now is the 8th seed. They're only 2 ahead of Luke Walton's LA Lakers.
Who are really banged up right now.
Does that mean Terry Stotts is on the hot seat? Or could be on a just unexpected, just boom.
I think they overperformed last year, so this is just kind of coming down to earth.
I think that the overperforming might play into that, but Terry Stotts did a fantastic job last year, and he's a great coach.
This is not me throwing out there like, oh, he should be fired. I'm just thinking, okay, this is a team that we thought would be better than an 8 seed. The next coach I'm going to bring up, this is a shock value one, but this is more for the end of the year. Think about the Clippers. If they, yet again, second round, don't go anywhere, do the Clippers think, well, guys, we had to go up against the Spurs and the Warriors. It's okay. Well, the Thunder were a good team, man.
The Rockets, too.
It's okay. We'll get them next year. Or do you sit there and go, maybe Doc can't get it done?
And one thing, too, that plays into that with CP3,
maybe Doc can't control the team.
With CP3 possibly leaving,
and
with Blake Griffin possibly leaving, that might be the sign of, if those two leave, then okay, let's just clear everything out. Let's get out.
Who you bring in then?
Doc Rivers,
the tank fucking commander.
Worked once in LA. Worked once.
You go get
maybe Sasha Vujacic then could come over from the Knicks and coach the Clippers. Baron Davis.
Baron Davis as a head coach would be
boom. I just fixed the Clippers for you.
I think George Karl might be looking for
by
a job
fixed,
too.
You mean turn them from a second-round playoff team to a team that struggles to get double-digit wins?
Fixed them. Fixed them. Anyways.
How are we not talking elephant in the room?
I think Doc is a big one. It's the elephant in the room.
The Pelicans, the natural disaster. I was
just about to get to him.
The natural disaster that is New Orleans right now.
I think he should have been fired
they got
last
Drew
year.
Brees. They're doing fine. They got Drew in that town. As long as Drew's there,
as long as they're going 8-8.
But the other Drew, not so much, because he's hurt.
No, not him.
The thing with Alvin Gentry is he's never been a good head coach. And I said this last year, too. He should have been fired last year. They're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And when you have a player
the problem is he came from a good coaching tree. So you wanted to believe he soaked up some of that. But no.
No.
He's bringing nothing to the table.
With Gentry, too, I mean, you kind of see a lack of motivation with players. I mean, and plus, you have players that just are a weird fit. I mean, Pelicans are a team that needs to flush the toilet. You need to flush the figurative toilet in New Orleans of Tyreek Evans, of Drew Holiday. And Drew Holiday is a great player. I mean,
he's a great person, but he's not going to give you 80 games a year.
He shouldn't be a starter in the NBA. He should be a fantastic bench point guard. God, if he was on the Knicks, get D Rose out, put Drew Holiday on the team. I'd love it. But the thing with that is Tyreek Evans kind of plays into what do you?
I'm just letting you go. You keep going.
Anyways, you need to flush the toilet in New Orleans. The only thing that's going to straggle on left is Anthony Davis, and that's the only thing that should straggle on left, and maybe Buddy Hield if you want to
give him time. He's only 23 now.
Yeah,
I mean,
but that's the thing is you need to get Gentry out. You need to get these players out. You need to realize that Anthony Davis is not going to stay in New Orleans. It's going to be very similar to the CP3 situation of if you're not going to be able to get him help. And CP3 left because he wasn't able to get help. He wasn't liking New Orleans because he never saw that team going in a direction. If you don't push this team in the right direction of clearing the table and clearing what you have in New Orleans, of clearing the old guard, you're never going to be able to keep Anthony Davis, and you're going to be into a flux where you might have to move again.
Well, I've got a question for you. Let me start off with this thought of, I mean, we're talking about these coaching changes. Like, changing a coach is magically going to get more out of players, and sometimes it does. Sometimes, your message falls on deaf ears, and you're no longer effective, or maybe you don't see it from the right point of view to utilize the right guys on your team in the best way. But when we're talking about teams like the Pelicans, like the Wizards, like a lot of these teams, maybe in the Kings, it's the problem's with the organization, and you just need to admit that. Like, changing your head coach isn't going to fix the fact that you have a horrible organization and you've been bombing every move you've made in the last 5 years. So you've set your organization up to fail. And I feel like in today's NBA, blaming the coaches is the easy way out. I think there should be more onus. There should be more onus on getting rid of the guys making those decisions. Coaches don't make picks. Coaches, they have some influence maybe in certain organizations, but I guarantee you, Scotty Brooks isn't out there making their picks. I mean, it's and this, don't get me wrong, I don't like Scotty Brooks as a head coach either. But it's just the fact that I feel like
players were there before he was hired.
Today's NBA is very win now. It's snap the fingers. Like, the Sixers are a throwback. They're like, wait, what? We can take our time. We're not in a rush to do this. But everybody puts the onus on the head coach, and I feel like that's maybe putting the blame in the wrong position.
Well, and that's why I was going to say, I mean, Alvin Gentry's only been there. This is his second year with the team. He was there. 2015 was his first year there. Why fire him after 2 years? Like, magically getting rid of him is just going to change the fortune in New Orleans. It's not. And that's the thing. Like, we were talking about, like Dave said in the Knicks segment, oh, give Jeff Hornacek. You get rid of Phil, give Jeff Hornacek a few more years to work. But magically, Alvin Gentry, it's after 2 years, get out of here.
Well, that's the thing, though, is you haven't seen improvement. I mean, this was a team that was led by...
But like Dave says, is it his fault?
No, it's not his fault, but he's also not helping the team. It's different than where it's like...
Then let me ask this. If you get rid of Alvin Gentry, who out there right now is going to be the stitches to fix the problem?
It doesn't matter, but when you have a coach like Alvin Gentry, who has not had that great of a pedigree before this. I mean, he's, again, like Dave said, he's from a great coaching tree, but he hasn't really proven that he is a good head coach.
Yep.
And the thing with that is you look at what is the new NBA. And Alvin Gentry does not symbolize the new NBA. And I don't know exactly the name out there that will fill in, but what you need is to bring in someone to fit the new NBA. You have a 62-year-old man in Alvin Gentry who's been in the league since 1990. I mean, you do not have a guy who has the same mindset of a Luke Walton, of a Steve Kerr, of a guy who is still fresh to the game. Alvin Gentry is an old coach, and he's a guy with an old mindset, and that's something that is good for an assistant coach to reel in young guys, but for head coach, nowadays, it's not enough.
But that's the problem. I'm for sure, if you don't know who they'll replace him with, the higher-ups in that organization don't know who they...
I mean, you could toss around the same names who every offseason it's like, could Ewing take a head coaching job? I know he's been an assistant coach for a while. I don't know if he'd necessarily want to be the head coach of this team, but you pair him, he was one of the most dominant bigs in the league. You give him Anthony Davis to work around. He certainly knows the struggles of being a big man on a team that can't get it done. So I don't know if that kind of impacts his decision-making, his thought process. And I know, because I've been there, I've done that, I've been in that place. I know how to play around you. I know how to get you, hey, we need to have 3 wings out there, 1 big, and like a guy standing in the corner, only in the corner, just with his hand up shooting threes, which they had and they fucked up. But
I'm going to relate this to baseball.
Yeah.
Not everyone can be the Chicago Cubs. Not everyone can have a manager, and then the Golden Goose.
World Series.
108 years.
No, I'm not saying that.
108
I'm saying
years of
not
failures.
everyone can have a Golden Goose fall right into their laps when it comes to a head coach or manager.
No, I'm not saying they can. And with that, you can bring up the obvious of Luke Walton falling into the Los Angeles Lakers job.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the best thing to have out there. But still, I mean, the only way you find new guys like that is going after them and just going through the recycled old coaches that were in the NBA that made the playoffs once because they had a great team in Phoenix with fucking Steve Nash. I mean, that's not going to help your team. You need to go out and find the guys with great young minds like Shaka Smart or guys in college who kind of know how to work with young guys and especially with a guy who's so young in Anthony Davis. Or you need to look at a team like the Warriors. All right, what really has helped propel them? What mindset
took them from being a 40 win team
in a great
to
organization,
becoming the most dynamic offense in the NBA, and now one of the best defenses as well.
And they have a great organization too, so that might be a bad example too. But you need to find ways to improve, and a way to improve is not to go with something that already does not work. Alvin Gentry has not worked, and he has not worked in his previous jobs, and he has not worked in this current job, and that's why he needs to go. It's not because, great, Alvin Gentry can keep his job, but I mean, you're not going to bring Byron Scott back in for any job. He had great success in Cleveland because he had LeBron James. I get it. Take Commander. He's got a position.
Let me throw this out.
I was just squatching Dave's bad joke.
Is it because, and I'm taking some of the blame off of Alvin Gentry a little bit.
It's not his fault, and I agree.
Is the problem of who their superstar is. Think about the teams that were their only superstar is a big. That's a problem in this NBA. If your star, look at the Kings, for example. Boogie's their biggest star, not that great of a team. Unless you're big, unless your star right now is a LeBron James-like player who can play point forward, or is a guard like Curry or Westbrook or Harden, you're not going to do much in this NBA.
Well, that's the thing. You need a guy who can bring up the ball and run an offense. And unfortunately, Anthony Davis cannot do that.
Yeah, I say positionally they don't have it. And then if you look at their drafts, I mean, it's piss poor, and they trade a lot of them. So that's not how you build a franchise, period. I mentioned this in the Pacers segment. That's not, when you have someone as young as Anthony Davis, that's not the answer. Paul George, different category because he's got years on him.
It's almost weird to say that there's almost a formula out there in the NBA that has worked. That you have to draft players and that you have to build around young players. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't mean that doesn't mean adding veterans, and that doesn't mean signing guys to overhyped contracts. Because, yes, they might be young, Amir Sheik, but they might not be worth the contract that you're giving them.
That was a great move for us to get him out of fucking town. Just saying. Just saying.
But that poison pill.
I'll never forget those 2 free throws he missed.
Is that the thing is with these teams is you see an obvious thing that's working. You need to draft, and you need to draft, and you need to draft. And then if some draft players aren't living up to the hype, then you can trade them for more draft picks. And you need to draft. You need to build through the draft. And there's this thing called the draft that is very important. You need to draft
Sean, I feel like
players
you're trying to center in on something here, but it's too cloudy. Can you clear it up a little for me?
It's the draft. And when you have a guy in Anthony Davis where you literally can't fuck up, he's the number 1 prospect, and you are able to draft him, then you need to draft more. And you need to draft consistently, and you need to draft players, and you need to get a guy who can find these players that will work with him. Because looking at their draft picks, or just really lack of draft picks, I mean, Buddy Hield might have been the play style I kind of understand, because you have a big and then you have a shooter, and that guy can pass it out to a shooter. But really, he's been very underwhelming here. And
you look at Jamal Murray out there, the next pick, who looks quite promising.
And one thing too with Hield is he wasn't that. He's a great ball handler in college, but he's not that great of a ball handler in the NBA. I think the easy pick there should have been Chris Dunn. Then you have a guy like Chris Dunn who works off with Anthony Davis. I know he won a pick before him, but still, just throwing it out there, like that would have been a perfect fit there, because he's able to control the ball. He's able to be a dynamic player who can get to the basket, kind of like an Isaiah Thomas or something like that. But anyways, I think Alvin Gentry's on the hot seat. Who's your choice again?
Scotty Brooks.
Scotty Brooks. And Ricky, yours was?
Mine was I was throwing out just Doc Rivers and Terry Stotts just to see what people think.
I think the Blazers more. I think Stotts is safe.
The Blazers seem
easily.
to me
Doc
such
after this year could be interesting, though.
I think I was going to bring that. I think that's completely not out of the realm of possibility. I think that was a good idea.
The thing with the Clippers is when do you say enough is enough? We need to make it to the Western Conference Finals.
How long will he keep Doc Rivers' son on the team?
Austin.
Until Doc.
Austin. Yeah, did you forget his name?
I'm looking at it on my screen right now. I just only refer to him
until
by his given name, which is Doc Rivers' son.
Oh wait, no, you played in the backyard with my kids. Yeah, you can come on the team.
Exactly, and that's what I'm saying. It's like maybe that's not the best move for your franchise.
One final coach I'm going to throw out there, because I always throw him out there because I don't think he's that good of a head coach. Jason Kidd, watch out. I'm sending letters to your house right now.
Does he make the playoffs and get fired?
No. If he makes the playoffs, he's fine.
Do you think a head coach who makes the playoffs will get fired?
Doc Rivers. I think we already brought him up. I think it was a good idea.
I'm going to say Jeff Hornacek if Phil gets pushed out. Maybe
unless Phil gets an urge to coach again.
New person comes in and they just say, "Hey,
they want their own man.
We need my own guy in here."
Possibly. We'll see what happens there. I think Doc Rivers is the easiest answer there, especially if CP3 and Blake Griffin go. I think there was a not too crazy of an idea to throw out there, Ricky Widmer. But anyways, that's going to wrap up this. It's going to wrap up this episode of the Fast Break Podcast. Thank you so much if you're watching on YouTube. Thank you so much if you're listening on Blog Talk Radio. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to keep following us. We put out episodes every single week, and also we're doing Game of the Weeks on our YouTube channel, so don't forget to check those out. Also, we've got Twitters and a ton of social media stuff that we would love to check you out, and also go to patreon.com/mostvaluablepodcast if you want to see more video podcasts. But for Dave Oster, for Ricky Widmer, I'm Sean Anderson. We will see you next time.
Thank you for listening to this MVP podcast. Follow us on Twitter @MostValuablePod for more great podcasts.